put this body in superposition and we're gonna travel the multiverse.
Easy peasy.
Costco Jason?
Costco Jason versus Whole Foods Jason. I don't think you're my Jason.
Save me, Jesus.
Why do I have so many soapboxes around here?
Which I'm not subscribing to this theory at all.
I'm gonna get very nitpicky here.
That's the logic!
Anytime I forget, I run headfirst into a door.
Apple, apologize
Creative
for dark
people.
matter. Hello and welcome to Road Goes Ever On and On. Today, Sterling and I are talking about the third episode in the Apple TV series, Dark Matter. So spoilers ahead. And if you're enjoying the content, please hit that like button to show us that you care. And if you want to stay up to date with all of our breakdowns, please hit that subscribe button and turn on that bell for notifications. And with that, Sterling, how about we talk about Blair and the others?
Absolutely. So I think that they are going to have a part in this.
Okay.
I don't think they're just mentioned.
Well, we did see Blair Kaplan in the nice Jason's world.
Right. And to make differentiation easy, I don't know if you noticed this, but the descriptions on Apple TV have Jason and Jason 2.
Okay.
So I think we can easily just, anybody from World 2, we can just tack 2 on the end of their name, and we can call that World 2, and easy peasy.
And so World 2 is Science Jason,
World 2,
right?
World 2 is Science Jason, and World 1 is Family Jason.
Okay, so I do have a question. Why did Jason 2 not recognize Blair Kaplan?
Did he not recognize Blair?
Well,
or is he just keeping his hands close to his chest, you know?
I mean,
not revealing his cards.
Maybe, but it didn't show, even to the audience. We've already seen Jason, he's studying social media to make sure that he knows all these people coming to the party. And you think that they may have shown, this Jason felt guilty for Blair Kaplan going into the box and him not, and so he wanted to go into the box. So you would assume that there would be some sort of reaction to be like, oh, it's Blair Kaplan, and just the weird small talk, in his note about Blair was, she not friends, not close, and so it didn't seem like there was any acknowledgement that this Jason knew who Blair Kaplan was.
Yeah. I kind of wonder, going based off of what you said, the note said about Blair, if he does anything odd, if he's not really close to Blair and all of a sudden he starts being super buddy-buddy with her, it may be weird to everybody else and kind of show that there's something wrong with him. And so it's possible that he's just trying to feel it out in a very low stakes way by not playing the first card. Because also, that's not necessarily, just because that is a Blair doesn't mean that it is his Blair. That could be, Blair 2 could have gone to any world. I think we saw at the very end that corridor seemed like it might have infinite length. It certainly was long as hell. And I think behind each of those doors lies a different reality.
Right. And I don't think that that's his Blair that went through the box, but it just didn't seem like somebody that was distraught about, sending a person in the box and seeing that this person exists in this world. There was no acknowledgement of it almost seemed like it's just another person with the exact same name, and there was no connection other than they sent another Blair Kaplan in the box.
Right. But also it could be his Blair. And maybe she doesn't know that is, that could be Blair too, and maybe she doesn't want to tip her hand, not realizing that this is Jason too. Both of them could be in the same awkward position, trying to fit in, and not wanting to open up a conversation with somebody that they think is supposed to be treating them almost like a stranger. They barely have a connection, they don't really talk, the Blair 1, Jason 1, apparently don't have much of a connection, don't really talk. And so it could easily blow their cover And considering the amount of work that Jason has put into keeping his cover, I think blowing his cover is a huge priority. And so I think he's moving very cautiously in how he approaches people. But I'll kind of get to my thoughts on that in a bit. But I do think so. Like the fact that a few people mentioned Blair's name. You know, the cop mentioned Blair's name, and then I think maybe Leighton mentioned Blair
and Amanda.
And so by the time we finally see in the party, we see the person that we already know, and we hear the name Blair. It's like, oh, so I think they definitely wanted us to make that association for a reason, because I think she is coming up later. I think she's going to have a part. It may not be this Blair, but I think some Blair is going to have an impact. And they danced around the other people that were sent. You know, just kind of saying that they recruited people anonymously. And Amanda mentioned that she trained the people that went through, which kind of makes me the fact that and I think the other two went in after Jason 2.
Yeah.
Which means that Jason 2 wouldn't know who has come through, and so therefore doesn't know who the other operatives are.
Okay.
They could be anybody. And I think that will have an impact at some point.
I mean, I think it's gotta have an impact. I would agree with that.
You know, almost like a Matrix-y type thing where, you know, anybody can become Agent Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Where, you know, he doesn't realize that there are these other two people and that it could be anybody. You know, it could be somebody that just looks like a passerby. And I'm curious what their intentions are.
Whose intentions?
Maybe the other people that were sent through. I question the intentions of some people. So I think this is a good segue into Leighton.
Okay.
And we can still chat about the others if you want.
Yeah.
But I think I question Leighton's motives. I know he mentioned altruistic motives. He said, you know, like, we can solve cancer, which I don't think anybody has ever said solve cancer.
Solve cancer, stop climate change, poverty.
Right.
But it is odd that it seems like he's just fine with killing innocent people, you know, like, we're going to try to stop these, you know, terrible things. I'm altruistic, but yet we'll kill Daniela Vargas, and it seems like Ryan got killed at the end of that.
Yeah, that's my guess. Because Amanda said, you know, when Jason asked, like, what about Ryan or something like that, Amanda just said, I'm sorry.
Right.
Which is not explicit, but at the same time, it's somewhat implied. So, and apparently Leighton had been warned about Dawn, and then Dawn does something that is reprehensible, and she still kept on the staff?
Yeah.
So, I really question Leighton's motives. And, I mean, it could just be, like, money. He wants to be the first person to get and monetize this stuff. And so maybe it is altruistic, but he's also like, you know, but I want to make sure I get mine. But I also wonder if there's something a little darker.
Well, it also seems like he has money. Like, Velocity Labs doesn't seem broke. It's not like, oh, this one thing is going to revolutionize.
He spent, what, billions?
Yeah, like he seems like he has a lot of money.
Yeah, and it seems like it is his dad's aviation money.
Grandpa's.
You know, of building engines.
His grandpa's.
Grandpa's, yes. Yeah. So it seems like it's like family money that he came into. So it's not even like he had to necessarily work for it.
So I also question Leighton's motives because, you know, he brings Jason 1 to be interrogated. He said, what did you tell Danielle Vargas? What did you tell Ryan? They bring Ryan forward. And then after they kind of beat the crap out of Jason.
Right.
You know, and he explains, like, why he was doing this. He brings Jason
it's a great way to bring somebody's memory back, by the way. Is
bludgeon him.
Yeah, concussion. That
right.
that always like knocks memories back into the brain.
Yeah, that's how people remember things.
Yeah. That's anytime I forget, I like run headfirst into a door.
Yeah, same. So,
Yeah.
why would he have put Ryan in this jail cell and then bring Jason to him and let them have alone time?
That might be one of those tricks of like they don't know that they're being that there's a recording equipment in there, and so hopefully they say something that they wouldn't say while they're being questioned. Maybe. I mean, I also question Leighton's intelligence because they know that this box brings you to alternate realities. And okay, so I was wondering about this for a little while, right?
Okay.
I was wondering, like, why doesn't anybody think that this is a different Jason, that it's not Jason 2? Because it's not just that he has forgotten things, it's that he has memories of things that don't exist. So this isn't just like amnesia.
Yeah.
And nobody's been like, "Hey, what if this is a different Jason?" And at first I thought that okay, well maybe they don't know, maybe Jason, having been the one that built the box, is the only one who really knows what it does. And so I was kind of giving Leighton the benefit of the doubt. But once he did that whole thing about, like, you know what we can do? Getting into other worlds, what if they've solved cancer? And it took them forever for somebody to be like, I don't think you're my Jason.
Right. And you would think that if this Jason didn't remember things, or even if you were starting to think that this Jason came from a different reality, why would you let this Jason have access to like all of the files and all of the
Right.
knowledge of what this box does?
Yeah. So there are definitely some issues I kind of have with that. So maybe he put them both in that room because he was hoping to observe them saying something they thought wasn't private while he's secretly recording them. Maybe he's not that smart. I don't, or maybe the show didn't think about it. I'm not 100% sure on that. The room itself actually, like, I thought the room itself was kind of interesting because it looks like a prison. Like it's cold and sterile. Other than the art, the furniture and the paint are in like the black and white spectrum, somewhere between whites, blacks, and grays. It's a pretty sparsely, populated room. It doesn't have a lot in it. It has like painted brick walls, which always just kind of like looks cold and industrial, especially if it's not a bright color. And then the only art in there is this weirdly minimalistic art, which I think in this scenario, not having any color and warmth inside the room, just kind of amplifies the minimalistic, sparse aspect of the room. But then I reverse image searched the pictures, and interestingly enough, they're all science. It's all science art. So the side by side posters with like the half circles and the things coming out of them.
Yeah.
One of them is general relativity. One of them is special relativity. The circle with the like strings in it is string theory. The hexagon is quantum mechanics. And then there's something that goes like up like this, and that is Fermilab, a real place in Chicago that I think has a particle accelerator in it.
Okay.
Which I thought was interesting, but it just, for me, it doesn't, like, it looks like a prison, that, like, combo of everything in there. And I think they even use, like, chroma color correction to adjust some of the colors in those so that it only has, like, 3 colors in the room, when if you look at all of those posters IRL, there's a little bit more color variation in them.
Well, I have thought that Jason 2's world, and especially in Velocity Labs, maybe not so much at the art exhibit, but like in Velocity Labs, it just feels like all the colors are muted. Like anything that, Leighton's wearing or Amanda's wearing, like they're wearing colors, but like all of those colors look muted. Where like Jason 2, who's in, the world with his family, all the colors seem a lot brighter.
Which is interesting because Leighton's office. I actually like that, but he specifically called out, this is all my grandfather's and I haven't touched anything. Like,
Right.
that to me seemed kind of warm and inviting, environment.
It
Which,
even
at the same time that, like, that environment was, like, warm and inviting, Leighton almost came off as, like, almost antagonistic to the cop, which, I don't know, if you don't want to be a suspect and you don't want to be, thought of, like, he seemed kind of annoyed and like he was he was never rude,
yeah.
but he came off as, like, kind of cold the entire time.
Well, and so another thing about that office is, the whole building is, like you were saying, sterile and very brick. And this was the one place there were plants growing. There was life. Like, it was a nice place to be. And yeah, and I agree also with the cop antagonizing. He, he wasn't like, oh, like, what does this, do you have any leads? What's going on? Like, have you heard anything? It was very much like, what is this about? Like, you seem guilty. You, like, are seeming very guilty to this cop, this detective.
Yes. So like, all of this stuff kind of together makes me wonder what Leighton's angle is. And it does also make me wonder if he chose anybody kind of similar to Dawn to send in as, like, one of the two others. So if we could have a moment where somebody crazy is potentially going against Jason 1 as he's trying to Jason 1 and or 2, I think the others are potentially coming up in this. That's just my thoughts.
I guess, but, like, okay, so here's, like, a bit of a problem I have. It's like, we have Dawn that seems like this, wild card, like, this person could be the person that's going to go chase down, Jason, and, very much, like, no holds barred, and,
one of the two people that Velocity has employed and given a gun is somebody who has PTSD.
Right. And it was such an interesting, like, way that, like, this was very tell not show either. Like, yeah, she shot her real quick, but, like, instead of having Amanda being like, oh, why did you give this girl a gun? You knew she has, PTSD. It could have been something we saw, like, Leighton and Dawn talking about, like, after she killed, Vargas, and just be like, hey, and just, like, I thought, even a throwaway line of, like, Dawn could have said, oh, I thought she was reaching for a gun. And then it'd be like, okay, well, maybe she's got some issues or is quick to, be the trigger, but it just, like, a random character explaining this other, I don't know. Just seems like they don't trust the audience enough.
I can definitely see that. I mean, I think that the show is potentially more on the actiony side of things. I think one of us has already said this. I don't know if we actually said it on one of the previous episodes or if we just said it to each other. But Jason looks kind of Jason Bourne-y. He's got a little bit bigger of a frame. He looks like he could potentially be an action hero, not somebody who is obviously action-oriented, not somebody who's, like, crazy beefy, but one of those kind of, like, reluctant action heroes, somebody who's, like, forced into that position of having to do actiony things and just happens to excel at it because they're in good shape. He doesn't come off to me as, like, scrawny physics professor.
Yeah. I mean, we saw him just jump across the table and just punch Leighton right in the face. Right. This, once again, like, this, like, physics professor that his natural instinct is to punch people in the face. I don't think that's how most physics professors get to that stage in their life. So I think this gets us into the Jasons. Okay.
Which I think is kind of interesting territory. We're already kind of comparing them and talking about them. So your thoughts.
Well, okay, my thought, I feel like the show has been a very slow burn. And
yeah.
I feel like the second and third episode of Jason 2's experience is just showing him being like, oh, I gotta navigate, gotta make sure nobody knows it's me. But yet, there hasn't really been like, we've gone 2 episodes and he hasn't had like a struggle of any kind being in this other world. Like, he's very much, he doesn't know somebody's name and people brush it off. He's looking up videos and social media to like fill in the clues and gaps of his life. But like, there's never been like, oh, I didn't know this. Am I going to get caught right now? It's all been very, very easy for him.
I have some thoughts. So I've already said that I don't buy this story of he's just trying to take Jason 1's life, because that comment he said in episode 1 about this is for us, for both of us. Like, he actually emphasized after he said us that it's for both of us. So that extra emphasis to me says he really means it, that there is something for Jason 1. And I know you said potentially maybe it's one of those things where he sees that Jason 1 is like lost his passion, and so taking that away will make him see what he had in front of him, and so he'll be able to appreciate it again. I don't buy that. Here are my 3 reasons why.
Okay.
First one is for both of us. The second part is Leighton says to somebody, I don't remember who, that he says to Jason 1, he says, any one of us would give up our lives for this because it's that important, especially you. So Leighton points out the fact that Jason, of all people, understands how important this is. So the idea that he would just use it as like a toy to get a better life and then just leave it to not do whatever great things, like whatever great purpose is there for it, seems very odd. And then the last part is, Jason 2 is putting in crazy amounts of effort to live this life. What is it, like 14 months that he's been not in his world? All of these cell phones, I assume the cell phones are from different universes. Taking notes, going on, like, memorizing facts about this other Jason, watching TikToks his son posted so he can see how their family interaction is so that he doesn't kind of, like, slip up. I mean, this is, the amount of effort that he put into this, into just taking somebody else's life and living it, versus if he put in that much effort into his Daniela, I know he screwed up with her, but he could make up and he could fix that mistake and he could make a life with her. If he spent these 14 months, this much effort, he could do that.
I do, like, I know that you say, like, the conversation with Leighton, that he's like, you would give anything up for this. But then he also had a different conversation with Daniela where his reality was saying that, like, I screwed up, I'm gonna, like, make this right, and I'm like it. And even Amanda talks about how he went and saw her the night before, and then after that night it was a switch for him that he was gonna do something. So I don't know, I'm still, like, I think that you're, at least my opinion of this show, I'm thinking like it is not as deep as we think it is, because it is going to be that action thrillery thing, and he just wants to go live with Daniela. What I am curious about, though, is if he could go into all these realities, right?
Yes.
And he clearly had to find the reality with Daniela, where they were married happily.
Yes.
Why wouldn't he have just gone into the world where both of his kids were alive?
Is it that they had twins and lost one of them?
Yeah.
Or you 100% sure of that? Or do you... Because what I was thinking is that, what if Maximilian is... What's the other kid's name? What's the kid's
Charlie.
name who's alive? Charlie. What if Maximilian is Charlie in one of the other universes? It just has a different... Because the social security numbers are the same, aren't they?
I don't remember if the social securities were the same, but the birth certificate did say twin on there.
Oh, it did?
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, it said twin, and that's how I knew. Because it said twin, It had Maximilian, and the social security numbers could have been very similar, except one number, since they were born at the same time.
I mean, here's a similar type idea. Like, if you want to, yeah, but I think the numbers were the same. Who knows?
We'll have to go back.
We'll definitely find out about that. I think that's coming up. But if he wanted to take somebody's like, why didn't he Rick and Morty it and go into a world where like something tragic happened to the other Jason, but the body wouldn't be able to be discovered, so nobody would know that Jason is gone, and he can just move into that life. Like I think potentially there's something along the lines of like Jason 2 knows that Leighton potentially has dark intentions, and so Jason 2 knows how to use the machine and Leighton doesn't. So if he takes himself out of the equation while he's figuring out how to properly deal with Leighton, he can remove a situation where Leighton potentially decides to like abuse Jason 2's knowledge to do something bad.
Well, but here technically Leighton still has the ability of the box because he sent 2 people after Jason. Like,
but then why was he telling Jason, I don't know how to use this. I have the keys and I don't know how to use it, or something like that.
Which I don't understand, because if they sent 2 people after Jason, it seems like he knows how to use it, and it's just he hasn't gone through it. Like, all because he himself...
I think there's more going on that's going to come out.
I will see. I think that...
Because if this had no depth to it and it was just action, then they wouldn't do this slow burn stuff. Like, stuff that's 100% action likes to jump into action. I think this slow burn stuff potentially is important setup. Like, I can't think of a super actiony stuff that doesn't have some depth to it that starts off this slow.
I mean, but I don't know, because I don't know if this show is super smart. Like, it's dealing with this whole, we're gonna put this body in superposition and we're gonna travel the multiverse, but then it's like, okay, what's her name? Amanda Lucas. She like breaks him out and turns off security cameras, so they like revoke her security privilege like right away to go into the box, but they don't revoke Jason's security privilege to go in the box. And then also when they're breaking out, they just happen to open the elevator, and Leighton, the head of this whole company, just happened to be walking down the stairs at this point. Like, it seems very, like, a lot of things are just like, oh, well, we forgot about that, or we forgot about this, or we're not gonna, to get around this plot hole, we're just gonna sweep this under the rug. So I want to hope that they're putting some crazy teasers, mysteries in this, but I don't know. It does seem like this show is a little lackluster in the tease department of being in depth, what's going on. Like, this is no Severance, let me tell you.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting that, I complained about 3-body problem just jumping to all the exciting action stuff, and now my complaint here is that this one is seeming too slow. But I think you can still do great character development that can have that same tension. Like, I don't think anything crazy happened in the first episode of Severance. I think had me hooked.
Yeah.
And it was without anything wild happening. So I think it can be done. I don't think that my complaint is just that this one is too slow. I think it's like hasn't developed its characters well, hasn't.
And one big complaint I have is, this Jason 1, he is tied up in the jail cell after he just saw what he believes is his wife be murdered, and he never once shows any emotion about that. Not even once. Not one time. This guy that has been so emotional about being in the wrong place does not show any emotion when he thinks his wife dies.
And he's a family man. He's the one who chose the relationship over the job. If there's anybody that should be sad from that, it's the person who sacrificed everything for the one he loved, you know? So even when he, like, I get that there's a big gap. Like, we don't see immediately after she's shot. That episode ends, and then the next episode, this episode, we see him already being held, and so maybe he cried at some point. But it's like when he tells Ryan, we don't see emotion, and he's telling Ryan for the first time, and Ryan seemed very close to her, and he might have shown some, but it wasn't.
Ryan showed more emotion than Jason did, and
yeah,
there's a point when Jason decides to talk to Leighton after he's like tied up. So like he's tied up. Like it couldn't have been too long since Daniela died, and he starts talking about Daniela, and he's like, she was a good friend of mine. Like, no, not choked up, not sad, not hurt that his wife he thinks died. Like, I don't know. It's just I do wish there were more from the characters.
Yeah. And, I totally get that. So I'm gonna get very nitpicky here to the level that zero people could really care about, or very few people could care about. So speaking of Jason 2 and Daniela on the date in the restaurant. So it's a tablecloth restaurant, $100 bottles of wine. This is a nice place, or is it? So you've got the two top where the guests are catty cornered, which is obstructive to traffic. It's very rare that you see that kind of catty corner, and some of the other tables that we saw two tops, they were across from each other, like in most. I sometimes see it when there's like one long booth and like the two tops on the end will have like the wraparound booth seats that are catty cornered. So one, I don't believe that this is a proper setup. Two, the wine and water glasses should be on the right side of the guest. I know that there are left-handed people out there, but they should be on the right side of the guest. And Jason's were, Daniela's weren't. And the awkward thing is, it's not because she's left-handed. She had to reach very awkwardly across with her left hand to get the wine glass, put it in her right hand, and then drink it from her right hand. Why would she not put it back on the right side? So I don't know if the restaurant did a terrible job with the setup. The staff needs to be fired. Their salt shaker was half full.
Oh no, that's a big no-no.
That's a big no-no. And to me, it's like it's a double no-no, because one, it makes it look like, I don't know, resources are sparse and you don't have enough salt to fill up the salt shakers. But then it also, to a certain extent, lets people know that people are using salt in your restaurant, which is okay. If you don't agree with the seasoning, that's up to you. That's why the seasoning is on the table. Most chefs season the food the way that they want it to taste. So they do not want you to put seasoning on it. And to me, having a half-empty salt shaker is a blatant reminder that who knows how many countless people have been seasoning their food post-chef bringing it to the table.
Oh my god. So
I've got issues with how this restaurant is run. And then, and I know a lot of people don't know this because they're not Psalms, so at this point, there's a PSA. They had nice wine glasses. And Jason and Daniela just have their paws all over the bowl of the wine glass. And the reason that wine glasses have stems is so that you can keep your ugly, oily fingerprints off of the bowl so that you can properly enjoy not just the smell and the taste of the wine, but also the look of it. You can see the clarity, you can see, the color, you can enjoy the whole kind of spectrum of it. And in addition to that, you aren't warming the wine with your hands. So like cognac, you actually are supposed to hold the bowl, and that's why that bowl is like so wide, so short, is so that you can actually hold it and warm it in your hand. But wine, you should not be warming it with your hand. It should be served at the correct temperature. Who knows I don't know if I trust this place.
I mean, maybe they're in Jason 1's reality, they have different psalm rules because
The wine should be served at the proper temperature, and once you put your paws all over that glass, you're warming it up. You're changing the temperature. You're changing the look of it. You're reducing your enjoyment of the entire thing. I'm gonna get off my soapbox.
I mean, the one thing I did like about the restaurant scene and maybe the Charlie buying skateboard scene is it showed that this Jason has coming from wealth from his reality to coming as a family man who is a professor. He doesn't have that like idea of finances, and I thought that that was like one cool way to show his character being like, oh, he has indisposable money. Where like, and both Daniela and Charlie were thinking that it was crazy that he was doing that.
I don't know if that's the. I don't think he's. I don't think he's too dumb to realize that he sees this Jason's clothes. This Jason doesn't wear nice. Like Jason 1 doesn't have a nice wardrobe. Jason 1 doesn't have a crazy job. He knows that. I potentially think that Jason 2 cares enough about the longevity of like not giving up his cover because he needs to keep it for X amount of time for what he's doing. But I don't think he's worried about Jason 1's like retirement portfolio.
No,
I think that's potentially why he's like burning through this, because I think he has an out at some point.
You think so?
And unfortunately for Jason 1, a bunch of Jason 1's money is going to be spent when that out happens.
Well, because see, the way I was thinking, it's like their family unit, they probably have a lot of shared expenses, and that's why even Daniela was so weird about it. Like, that's $100 bottle of wine. Like, we can't afford this. And he's just kind of like, yeah, whatever, and I don't know. I took it as he is just living a luxurious lifestyle in the first world, and he's not quite able to leave that lifestyle, maybe. I don't know.
I have a feeling that when he proposed the date, that Daniela, and he proposed this restaurant, with the nice wine, Daniela's like, oh, should we, that place? And he's like, yeah, for us, let's splurge. I think he already knew, and he's like, I don't care about this Jason's money. I'm not going to be here forever.
But then again, also, Daniela and Jason threw a big dinner party where the guests weren't expected to bring anything. So they were hosting a big, alcohol, drinks, food, and yet they weren't too worried about the
They might have gotten all that from Costco.
I guess, yeah, that's a solid argument there. Okay. Costco, Jason.
Yes. It's like Costco Jason versus Whole Foods Jason.
Costco Jason's way better. I love the deals. I like to go sample, get all the samples there. Whole Foods Jason, too pricey for me. Too organic, too fake. Not my cup of tea.
Yeah, yep.
Okay, I want to talk about the box.
Yes.
Okay, so, they do a good job explaining it. Alloys, there's different things that can, make it basically soundproof and acknowledge proof. And mostly I want to talk about where Jason's at, like where he wakes up at.
In this corridor.
In this corridor. Because we have to knock people out, which 3 minutes, it's all the time that it takes. So they set a timer for 3 minutes. They're knocked out for 3 minutes. That's kind of crazy to me that was able to do it so fast and keep everybody knocked out. She was able to also make a nice little pillow for her, even though you see how fast she gets you get injected and you pass right out.
Yep.
Once they wake up, they shouldn't be in superposition anymore because they're witnessing it. How is this a huge long corridor?
See if they come up with better technobabble to explain this stuff. I don't know, like something. It was interesting. They brought up the observer effect in this. I feel like we're getting more from Constellation, right? Like we had the Schrodinger's cat thing. We had the observer effect. That show was confusing as hell at times, but I do feel like they used those ideas well to represent what happened in there. Versus this, it just feels like they're just stringing together words, you know? Like if I put you in a superposition, then you can see all the multiverses. What does that mean? Like, that seems like you'd put I don't know. It's weird. Like, shouldn't it be the boxes? Like, what's traveling is in the superposition? I don't know. This is weird. And then bringing in the observer effect and how they have to, like, something prefrontal cortex. Otherwise, you'll observe, and that's I don't know.
Yeah, prefrontal cortex, so your brain can't observe itself, so your consciousness can't observe yourself or state of being.
And then they try and bring up one of the things, one of the issues of like, well, what about when anybody else observes you? And then he's like, that's the point of the box. What does that mean? You can't just say another word. Just sweep away.
Somehow the box then magically exists in Jason 1's reality and it's just there. Or here's another thought, which I'm not subscribing to this theory at all.
Yeah.
Jason 2 finds this, just comes out of the box somehow, and the box exists in the warehouse. Or he wakes up on the ground somewhere, and then he rebuilds the box to be able to send Jason 1 back, and that's why nobody else has been able to go back. I don't know. I'm very confused by this
considering
show.
It's a custom alloy, I don't know. It would have been a lot better if they didn't try and explain the science. That would be much easier. I built a box to travel between dimensions. But who knows? Maybe there is a reason for this, and we'll see why this explanation was being given. Once again, I do think that there is a little bit more depth to this. I don't think this is necessarily the deepest show, but I do think there's a little bit more depth to it.
I'm hoping so, because we're three episodes deep. I don't really feel like there's a whole lot of like intrigue. I think the biggest intrigue now is like, why is there a big corridor in the box, or like, where are they going to go next? That's, I guess, a little bit of intrigue, but I think overall I do think they're going to get into exciting worlds. Who knows whether or not that's worth it? Just because there's exciting worlds doesn't make it worth it. Plus, as I said in episode 1, we've seen the multiverse so many times that what's this one going to bring to the table? Right, and we also have very clear like lines in the sand where we know the antagonists are Leighton and Dawn. Seem like they're going to be the main antagonists of the show. Are we going to see them in different realities still being the antagonists? Are they going to go chase them through the realities? What is the... Well, I mean, I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens there. All right. This is some nitpicky stuff. I'm going nitpicky.
I mean, I don't think you can get much more nitpicky than destroying a fake restaurant.
Well, okay, so...
And by the way, I'm going on to... I hope that's not a real restaurant, because if it is, I'm going on to Yelp and giving it a 2-star review based off... I wouldn't do that, because obviously the director's probably screwed with it, but...
Right. So, okay, when they show him the video of Jason coming back through the box...
Yeah, yep.
It's... they're showing him, he disappears, he comes back.
Oh, yes! And the people are already coming with the stretcher at the same time that he comes out.
Yes! It's like how would they know? How would they know so quickly? And they were right there as he's coming out with the whole stretcher and like, we gotta go save him. Like, how? Okay, that's a little nitpicky. Also, we saw...
No, I'm with you on that one. It made zero sense. Unless when a person goes back into the box, it takes 3 minutes for the doors to open, and in the meantime, like, there's an alert that goes off outside saying that somebody's in the box and the door's opening in 3 minutes. That's the only way I can see it happening, but I was right there with you. I was like, this makes no sense.
But it also seems like the door is always left open, and unless it closes, then it's the 3 minutes. So then, like, why would he appear with the door closed at all? I don't know. That part was... I want to nitpick about that part. And I also want to nitpick about... There was the scene with Dawn, where she gets her fingers chopped off.
Yes.
And she had a gun...
This is some Tesla Cybertruck stuff.
Tesla Cybertruck stuff. Not going to shut off for your fingers. But also, if you watch the scene again, she has a gun in this hand. Yes. So she's got her whole hand on this gun, right? And she's got this hand like this. As the door closes, her hand goes off of it, and it's just the gun hand here. So, if she's holding a gun, it's not going to chop her fingers off like that. Because this hand clearly went out of the way.
This one, she felt it slipping, and so when it slipped, she threw the gun into that hand, because you don't want to just drop it on the floor and have it go off, and put the other hand in there real quick. It's a usual move that people do.
Right. I actually forgot about that move. I haven't had any... I have not had gun training, so that's my fault. I should have known that.
It's a John Wick level gun fu, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of issues with this show. But hopefully things get cleared up, things get better. He also didn't show any, like, emotion when this Jason 1, who has been friend with Ryan 1, Ryan 2 gets murdered, and Jason doesn't... She
doesn't say that. She just says, I'm sorry.
I don't know. I feel like that was pretty clear indication that he got him murdered.
And he's in his... I don't know why I'm defending, because I do feel like he should be showing some kind of emotion. Also, why is Jason 2 such a dick to Ryan? Are we going to see why that's the case? Because, you know, Ryan 1 comes up and snuggles behind Jason 2, like good friends sometimes do, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you can do that kind of invasion of personal space. And Jason 2 clearly is like, I don't know who's behind me. I've already met the only 4 people I thought were going to be in this party. I have their names written down. It's none of them. And then when he finally sees Ryan, he seemed surprised in a bad way. Like, we don't have this kind of relationship. Which, if he's been observing, I guess, no, they've been apart for a long time. So maybe they rarely get together, and in the 14 months, you know, like we don't get together all the time because we live in different states.
Yeah. And
when it finally does happen, it's like that. So I was just about to say, if he's been observing, he should know.
But he did see Ryan. I mean, I'm sure if this guy's observing him, I'm sure he saw their interactions at the bar.
The bar.
Yeah, where they were really good friends.
Really good friends in the bar. Yeah, I don't...
Okay, 2 more nitpicky things, and then I'll be done with these picks.
Good.
So,
good. When
he's watching the video of them playing Clue...
Yes.
The way that the video is filmed, it looks very much like it was filmed by a 4th person.
It does. I love how they, like, tried to make it look like it was a TikTok thing, because it starts in super close and then you see, like, the perspective shift because of a hand being pulled out, but then where the camera ended up did not make sense with where a person's hand normally would be. It seemed like it was, like, well framed, you know, like a director chose that angle.
If it was Charlie doing it, the hand would have been, like, here filming. I was like, who's
I'm
filming
with you on
this?
that. I'm with you on that. Or does Charlie have just, like, some crazy ass long arms that we didn't notice earlier?
I mean, maybe that's a possibility too. And the last nitpicky thing, and then
yes,
we'll let it die, and then hopefully I'll get some more for next episode. But when Leighton's questioning Jason 1, he's asking him all these questions, and he's like, I didn't build the box. I don't know how it works. And then he's like, no, but a better version of you did. So it must be innately buried deep down in you. Like, we took two different life paths. I stopped, like, this Jason 2, worked on this for 10 plus years, 15 years at least, because that's about the age of
However
Charlie.
old this kid is, he's like continued, yes.
And I stopped doing that. I just stayed in my lane of physics. So how would I innately know how this box works? Leighton, you're putting a lot of faith in me, and you know I'm not the real one.
Okay, I'm gonna possibility.
Save me, Jesus.
Possibility. If the box works a little bit more like what is described and not how we think of as space and time and inter-universe travel, if somehow the Jasons actually are in some kind of superposition, there might actually be a connection between them. And so maybe it could actually be innate. I really doubt that, because I like the way it looks like to me, this looks more like, you know, if you're I know you are, but other people, if you're a Doctor Who nerd, you know, a TARDIS, like a box that moves through, in this case, dimensions.
Okay.
Instead of like space, you know? So it's not going through time and space. It's going like through multiverses. But that's not how they're describing it. They're saying it like something puts a person in superposition. So maybe Jason both is the other Jason and himself at the same time.
Well, okay, but then
maybe.
Here's my little poo-poo on that. So if we're going to say that there's multiverses, right? You know, they've already mentioned that there's multiple universes. Okay, so if there's one, it's either there's just two universes completely, or there's an infinite amount of universes.
Infinite, yeah, I think so.
So if there is infinite amount, with, you know, monkeys writing on typewriters theory, there should be infinite versions of Jason, where he's a doctor, where he's a firefighter, where he's a lion tamer, where he has... So I guess all these Jasons just hold all of the knowledge of all these Jasons at once, and so our Jason number 1 can do open heart surgery because he's carrying the essence of Jason that can do open heart surgery?
I don't know.
That's the logic!
I don't know. Well, we don't know yet. We don't know where it's going.
True.
And I think that I think Everything Everywhere All at Once dealt with that in a great way. Which once again is I said this in the first episode, is like coming on the heels of that. Who would want to do a multiversal story on the heels of that? I know I assume the book was out long before that movie, but who would want to do a movie about the multiverse
right
after that? Because that was such a good take on it. And and there have been other takes too, you know?
Yeah.
Marvel have done a number of takes, you know, whether it's and I think some of those have been, you know, kind of interesting, like the idea of Kang, of, you know, if I can do this and there's infinite versions of me, then there's a really bad one we've got to worry about. So I need to like trim timelines to prevent the worst version of me from taking over. Like I think even that has, even though I had some issues with how that was dealt with, I like that idea. You know?
Yeah.
So I think there's already been so many different interpretations of this, and then we'll see what this one brings to the table. They need to bring something good, otherwise they might have the same fate of Constellation, which was canceled, unfortunately.
Rest in peace, Constellation. There will be no Constellation Season 2 for us.
Which I wasn't 100% sold on that show. I think towards the end it got much better for me, and so I'm bummed to not see where it was going.
Yeah.
But that to me isn't one that I'm going to lose sleep over. And honestly, the way that this is going, if this were to get canceled and they didn't show the rest of the episodes, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. Now. We'll see. They can redeem themselves. We'll see.
I don't see them not releasing the rest of it, because I'm sure the whole season's already filmed and already shot, ready to release. So I can't imagine that they're going to
No, I don't think so because they don't have David Zaslav as their CEO. But
Netflix.
if this was Max, no, Max, Max has canned, what was it, Batgirl movie?
Oh yeah.
Completely filmed. 100% completely filmed.
Yeah.
I think post-production might have been done on it already. Like,
yeah.
It just and it was canned for insurance money, which to me
Tax write-off.
it was a tax write-off.
Tax write-off.
Okay. I thought it was insurance money. I was about to say, if I was like the insurance company, I'd be like, you're
No, they write it off. They write it off as
tax
a loss.
That's what it is. Tax write-off. Yes.
They did it
That,
with
to me,
also Coyote versus Acme.
Yes. And so I'm saying that it's not out of the realm of the possibility for something to just be like,
right.
But I don't think that Apple wants that look.
Right.
You know? So I don't think we have to be worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's not out of the realm of possibility. And shows have actually done that in the past where they have started to be aired and then they've just been cut. I think those are generally ones that are maybe where episodes are still in production. So I don't think that it's going to happen to this.
Yeah.
But it is possible in this world. And especially if you're on Max, like Warner Brothers, what was it? Warner Brothers, the Max, whatever like the big company is that Zaslav is the CEO of. Like,
yeah.
Watch out.
Oh yeah. Warner Discovery? I know it's like
Warner. I think that might be what it is. Warner Discovery. I feel bad for any creatives in that world because with the amount of money that he makes and then just like the callous way. And I get their companies. You got to watch the bottom line, whatever, all this kind of stuff. But he is just that level of like basically all the work is done.
Yeah.
And just gonna put it in a hole and bury it for a tax write-off rather than letting all of that hard work actually get out to people and see what happens. And sometimes, like, even if something is, and I know this isn't common, but sometimes, things can even be released and not be an initial commercial success, but then later, because of syndication, can end up doing well, with DVD sales or through, the right, like, distribution rights being sold to, like, Netflix and whatever to show it on all these other streaming platforms. It's just a slap in the face to every human that put hard physical and hard creative work into making something that'll never be seen. Like, I can't imagine putting all that effort into something that just will never see the light of day.
Yeah, that's hard. And yeah, just like the actors and, directors, writers, and put a lot of time in it, and then it's thrown away.
And it's a tough time for creative people, with all the strikes that happened recently, pay and conditions haven't been great for people to survive. On top of that, you have like the use of AI in order to use creative people a little bit less. We're like at this kind of precipice of all this stuff going on, and companies are getting backlash for that. Like Apple released an ad. I don't know if you saw this, where it was like, I haven't actually watched the ad, but it's something about like all of these creative things like instruments and I don't know what else. And I think they get, like squashed by a compactor or something like that. And then it's what's revealed in its place is like the MacBook Air or something like that. And it's basically saying you can replace all of this creative stuff with this one tool. And creative people in these industries, and there would end up being big backlash, and Apple actually apologized, I think, for that ad, because it's terrible timing for that. Where
Apple apologize for dark people. Matter.
I'll get off my soap. Why do I have so many soapboxes around here?
That's because you're dirty and you've been cleaning yourself, and I appreciate that. But with that, I think our journey has come to an end. Thank you folks so much for joining us. Next week, come back. We will be doing Dark Matter, episode 4, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.